Hello, and welcome to the Wild Contemplations podcast. This is our first episode. We're really, really excited to be here and to create this experience for not only ourselves, but for the world to sit with us in contemplation. I am Kristin. I am one of the hosts, and
I'm Cori. I am the other host, and we'll be taking a contemplative adventure around the astrological wheel, moving through all 64 of the gates and gene keys, weaving the systems of human design, astrology, and the gene keys together. And today we are contemplating the 25th gene key, which the sun will be moving through on March 18th through the 24th. And we'll also tune into the Earth and its grounding programming partner, the 46th gene key, which will be moving at the same time. And so I thought we would start just by taking a few breaths together, about 3 breaths together, connecting, attuning to our body and our space and just the circle together. So if it feels good to just soften the gaze or close the eyes, maybe bring a hand to the belly or the chest. And just for 3 breaths, noticing the breath come into the body and out of the body.
lovely. I'm really excited to be here. At first, when Corey and I started talking about this, I was a little nervous because the gate or gene key transits the sun every 6 days. Is that correct, Corey?
Yep, 5.5 to 6 days.
So we'll be recording episodes around that time frame, creating this sort of living library of sorts of these different archetypes. And my projector heart in human design was like, can I exert that much energy towards a podcast? Because I definitely wave in and out of seasons in the work that I do. And then as I sat with it and really, made my decision, I thought to myself, this can be my ritual or one of my rituals. And ritual is so important in my life. Every day I have morning and nightly rituals, and I love that this gets to be the space where I can just ground into the energy that I'm feeling and then hear from Cori and all of her wisdom what is actually going on in the ethers. So I'm really, really excited to be here.
Oh, and I think it might be a wonderful time to share your human design and astrology and your gene key. I'll just say your life's work is in the fifth gene key. So everything that you just shared is just super aligned with rhythm and ritual. But if you wanted to share about your, yeah, big three in astrology and human design now.
Yeah, so I am a Sagittarius sun, Libra moon, Pisces rising, and I'm a 1-3 emotional projector. And my gene keys, Corey's going to have to tell you because I don't. 5, 35, 64, and 3 or 4?
63.
And
Yep.
63. Okay.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, life's work in 5, evolution in 35, radiance in 64, and purpose in 63 for Kristin. And then I am a Cancer sun, a Virgo moon and rising. I'm a 4-6 sacral manifesting generator, and my life's work is in the 56th gene key. My evolution is in the 60, radiance in the third, and purpose in the 50. Um, and one of the cool things about us taking this journey together is the sun just moved into Kristin's first house, and the sun is currently in my seventh house. So we'll also be kind of offering that integration and balance as we move through like opposites on the wheel.
Hmm. I love that. So why don't you share a little bit about these energies?
I'd love to. So the 25th gene key has its frequency bands of constriction, acceptance, and universal love. In the human design chart, it lives in the G or identity center, and it reaches towards the heart center. It's called the gate of the spirit of self, or sometimes just the gate of universal love. And its programming partner, the 46 gene key, where the earth is moving during the time that the sun is in the 25, has the frequency bands of seriousness, delight, and ecstasy. It also lives in the G or identity center, and it's called the gate of the determination of self, or sometimes the love of the body. And so we can kind of sense into these energies that, oh, the word that was coming up for me was like an invitation to sort of loosen. Um, the 25th gene key, again, lives at the end and beginning of the astrological year. So it covers the last 2 degrees of Pisces and then the first few degrees of Aries. So this is always where the sun is when we have the spring equinox. And this is like the breath of life. It's very connected to the breath, those first few breaths of just coming into the world, of a dream, of a creative project. You know, you can really feel the Aries kind of spark of life. Um, and yeah, it speaks to our experience here, like the soul and the spirit coming into the body and the constriction that we move through with that, especially when we get kind of in our heads about it and start really experiencing life in this like separate way that the soul and the spirit is not necessarily used to. And so then we find the grounding or the sort of complement in that 46, which really kind of gets us comfortable with the body. It shares with us that when we want things to be different than they are right now, again, that like acceptance piece, that's like the definition of seriousness that Richard talks about. Um, that we're trying to control the sort of narrative and we're getting tight in our body and we're not really leaning into the delight and ecstasy, these states that are actually like the natural states of the body when it's just immersed in the experience of life. And one of the things that in my contemplating with this that comes up is like the G in identity center is where our magnetic monopole lives. So this is like a big thing in human design. And we have this there no matter whether we have it undefined or defined. But this is really that sort of mystical energy that attracts like everything to us and kind of guides our direction through life based on how we interact with that and what we choose. And what I sense with the gates here is that yeah, they're asking us to lean into that passenger consciousness that is talked about in human design, which is like enjoying the ride and kind of trusting in it, and not getting too in our heads about it. So I think it's a really cool energy to start the year with and to start this podcast with in our contemplation.
Hmm. I'll share a little bit about how I've been feeling. I tend to pick up the next season's energy a little bit sooner than it starts. So I feel like I was wintering really hard this year. And then all of a sudden, I just started picking up momentum and I had all this energy and wanting to do things. And I feel like I'm in so much momentum, almost like I'm, running and I can't get my feet on the ground. I'm in so much momentum and I'm having a harder time stilling my body right now, like finding that stillness. So Fridays are my goddess day, and it took me a while this past Friday to really just settle down and be in my body. And I'm not even sure that I even got there on Friday. Um, Obviously, Cori and I were starting this podcast, so there were some things going on, behind the scenes with that. And I was, thinking a lot about that, and there was a lot of momentum there. But, that's to me, that's yes, it's a thing that her and I decided, but the timing is not coincidental. It's intentional. And so it's not because of the podcast, is what I'm saying. It's not because of the podcast that I was feeling that way. But it's just this accumulation of this energy. So that's how I'm feeling right now. And I love the seriousness part of it too, because even with you and I starting this podcast, this all came to be in the whim of a week, a week and a half, maybe time frame. And yeah, we just decided to roll with it. And that's fun to me. Like that pulls on my three line with experimenting and this podcast gets to be a whole experiment for both of us, really.
Oh, first and foremost, what's coming up in this last piece that you shared is this like adventurous aspect of what we're doing here. And it's certainly in your prime gifts and in mine as well. And in this 46, I actually have my moon here in the 46. And it's also often considered like a very serendipitous sort of energy. Again, when you're trusting that you're being led where you're meant to go and just really like leaning into it. So it feels very connected to the energy that we're coming into this podcast with. Like, yeah, we don't have everything planned out. We're kind of like just rolling with it and seeing where it takes us, but there is a a luck almost associated with that and like a fortuitous energy of just like trusting and showing up even if it's not perfect and polished. Again, the 25 too is like those first breaths. It's moving with that like innocence. In the I Ching, the translation is innocence. And so it's like I have this creative spark, this yearning to like move with something and go towards something, and I'm going to trust that. And when I do, then like life kind of comes in to support me just showing up, even if the first steps are wobbly, even if yeah, again, like I might look like a fool. I kind of feel like the tarot's fool energy here too. Just really like seeing what happens.
Mhm.
And again, trusting like a third line energy that no matter what, you're receiving something from that experience, whatever way it takes you.
Mhm.
And then the other piece that I really resonate with is this stirring of spring energy and this uh yeah, it's a lot of energy. The sort of dilemma of the 25th can be anxiety. And I was even experiencing it yesterday because we have Mercury retrograde and there was like some communication delays. And I was starting to feel that I was getting into my head, that I was wanting things to like move faster than they were because I was feeling that fiery energy. And I could feel the constriction in my body. Like I was like going on a walk and I was like, okay, I need to ground my energy. I need to take some breaths. I need to come back home to my body because I've gotten just really up here. And that's kind of the gift of that we find in the shadows. So the shadows are never like bad or undesirable. I mean, they can be uncomfortable, certainly, but they offer us a gift, and really it's like a signal to us. And to me, most often, it tells me that I'm too in my head. But in general, I think it just shows us that we're out of balance, we're imbalanced somewhere, and we've kind of narrowed our mind or ourself around the energy, not letting it like fully express itself. And so just a really beautiful practice that I'm going to be leaning into these next few days is when I do start to feel the energy like moving fast and getting up here and kind of out of body is just like coming back to the breath, coming back to the here and now into my body. And the 46 too is about leaning into like um food and like the sensual, simple pleasures of life, like doing the things that bring you joy, just savoring kind of the small experiences that we might rush through in the day to day. And we've had some big planets in the 25, Neptune and Saturn. Saturn will be moving out, but we've had Neptune and Saturn here, and Venus just recently moved through as well. So we've been feeling this energy for a while now. And then the sun will just certainly like amplify and energize that. And also, I feel like things will start if things have felt a little like they're wanting to move, but they're not yet. Like I feel when the sun moves into here, we might get like some go energy with things.
Yeah, it's interesting because this week there was a quote that came up on Insight Timer, and I don't remember what the quote was now, but it was about surrender. And when I read the quote, it hit me that surrender is so much easier when we're actually in action and not sitting back and waiting and, okay, I'm surrendered. What's going to happen in my life now? That's where, for me, the anxiety comes. And I found, because I can be really extreme in, I'm going to be in Kristin land and be totally surrendered and grounded and in la la land. Or I can be all up in, the masculine hustle of the world. Um, and my rituals really, sort of bring me back to that space, right? When I force myself into those rituals, like that goddess day I was speaking about, I cannot work on those days. And actually Cori was texting me that day about the podcast and I was responding a little bit and then I stopped and I was like, well, I'm going to come back to this tomorrow and, revisit it because I was so in the momentum of it. So going back to what I was saying originally, I found that when I'm in action, when I'm just following my own creative flow, that's when things start landing for me. That's when the invitations start coming for me. And that's like, to me, I just got chills. Like, that's the true surrender. Surrender is not, laying in Shavasana, waiting for the world to happen around us. It's about us living life in our expression and then allowing or like noticing the things that come in and wow, like this is an amazing opportunity. Wow, what a gift it was to see that today. Um, so yeah, that's what I was feeling as you were speaking.
Oh, I love that. Because yeah, I feel like these energies really speak to that. Um, and Richard touches on it in his contemplation of one of them. He says surrender is very different from like resignation, right? Like just resigning to the fact that, oh, like this is how it is, or like yeah, like taking all hands off and just like you were saying, kind of waiting around maybe is the thing, like there's the energy of like focusing on life as it's happening now and waiting for like opportunities and invitations and those things to come in. But you're not just like sitting there like waiting for life to happen because life is always happening. So it's more about finding again that balance of when the doors are meant to open, when the opportunities and invitations are meant to come to me, they will. And I can wait. I don't need to go after those or go out and try to make those happen. But that I can be living life and engaging with life and doing the things that bring me joy and just leaning into like the everyday too, right? I think
Mhm.
that sometimes we get especially as a fire season comes, I think we get really connected to our creative side and like our dreams and our visions and our desires and like how can we kind of get those going? And then maybe we forget to just be where we are now. And this speaks to the 25 again with acceptance and the 46 with seriousness, like being when you try to make things different than they are in the here and now. It's like when we allow things to be as they are and accept them as they are and really embrace them for, like you said, all of the things that they're offering us at this time, then we're in the moment and all of that other stuff comes and finds us instead of us trying to like go find it and then it just getting kind of farther away from us. So I
Mhm.
really love that you share that example and experience.
So what are you being asked to accept right now?
I love this question. I think for me, what's really coming up is around time. Um, I was tuning in just right before our call, like, where am I feeling the most constriction right now? And I know it's around time and money. Um, those are probably two places where I feel the squeeze. Um, and I think they're very connected too. Um, and so I really am feeling into accepting the timing of things is going to bring me a lot of spaciousness and relaxedness in my body that again allows like my energy to move in the way that it wants to without getting too constricted by the mind.
Mm. Hmm.
What about
I
you?
think, yeah, I think for me, kind of similar to timing, the pace that I run next to other people in the world, right? So even when I meet people at festivals and markets and I'm offering readings, and I find that my readings are very intense and catalytic. Is that the right word? Catalytic? Is that a
It is
word?
now.
um, and my energy is ready to go especially when I see into someone, like when I do readings or just even when I meet people in general, like I see so deeply into them and what's possible that I get excited for that timeline. And then finding acceptance in what I see possible to what's happening in our current reality is the biggest gap for me. And I guess you could say that's, related to time in a way. It's like waiting for timelines to match up, right? Um, that is probably my biggest thing. And I would also say that as our biggest challenge, and I didn't really want to use that word, but my biggest invitation, I'll say. Um, as someone who is working in the world of spirituality, it's, I used to, again, very extreme, think like my journey was all about ascension and moving and seeing into these other dimensions and timelines and all the things, like to really see what's possible. And yet we still live in a human reality. And so, like, I remember asking at one point, I asked my intuition, I said, how do I teach people from this world, this dimension that I can see, that I can be in, that I can feel and live in when I'm in this reality? Like, how do I teach from here and not come back to this reality? It's like I didn't want to be in my body, if you will. And my intuition said to me, you don't come back, you teach on the bridge. And I think like that's like that really sums it all up for me because it's about how do I see it all and find acceptance for what is. And that to me, I just got chills again, feels like I'm going to use life's work. And I don't even know if that like is any sort of resonance from a gene key perspective, but like it very much is resonant for me regardless of yeah. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, this is something that I've really been moving through probably the past couple of years, but it's been amplified through these eclipses. Um, and I've been having conversations about it because there is this part of me that has always been able to see into the future. Um, but because I'm seeing into the future, like those things don't necessarily land when I am expecting them to. Because I often think like, oh, that's coming much sooner, you know? And then there's a part of me that is a bit disappointed and like even sometimes questions those knowings and those visions because like, well, it's not happening yet. Like what's going on, you know? Um, and it's also been an invitation for me to be like where I am with what is here now instead of trying to get to that future vision that I see because the only way that I get there is through the here and now. Like you said, it's really about like when I accept things as they are right now, again, it's not this like resignation that this is how it's always going to be and this is what I want or anything like that. It's just like the reality of this is what's right in front of me. And can I open again to receive the wisdom of it because it's offering me something regardless of how uncomfortable or just like how I feel like it should be different. It's really offering something to me. Can I open up to that? Because that is the transformation that then takes me to the next place. Like that's what actually moves me to that future vision and timeline is interacting with what's right in front of me here and now.
Mhm. I was just looking at your chart as you were speaking and from human design. And so I was looking to see if your sacral was connected to your throat, and it is through your G. So do you have you felt that manifesting energy? Like you were just talking about that, right? I see it and then I'm disappointed that it's not here. And I'm curious, like what do you need to resolve through your identity to like let that energy flow?
Yeah, this is giving me chills because what I notice is um, most of the time what happens is I go through my process that tends to be like a little bit longer. Again, like things take more time than I would like them to. I have Uranus in the fifth, which is connected to time and patience. And I also have noticed a deep relationship with Saturn and just that my life, again, doesn't tend to fit like these timelines. Um, so, what I've recognized too is that when I kind of, again, surrender, but not surrender and like, oh, I'm just letting it go, but when I'm beyond the wanting of it or the desiring of it or the going after it, the chasing after it, when I'm just immersed in life as it is in the here and now, those things drop in like, whoa, where did that come from?
Mhm.
But but it takes my my mind a bit to get there because I could say, like I've gone through the phases where I'm like, okay, I surrender. Like I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna focus on these other things. But there's still a part of me a lot of times that is attached to it and that isn't accepting things as they are and is getting a bit serious about it, even if like intellectually I know how my manifestation process or whatever we want to call it works. Um, it's like this process that my being and body has to move through. It feels very much like a mutative process that I go through. Um, and it aligns with a lot of the energy in my chart as well. Um, and yeah, I have to kind of like wade through the shadows and the ups and downs and highs and lows of it all. And then basically when I'm like over it and I'm just like living life in a different way, it drops in crazy quick. But it's
Mm-hmm.
taken 7 years
Mm-hmm.
in the like process of it all.
Yeah. It goes back to what I was saying about being in action and surrender. And, it's like I can't hyper focus on what I don't have because I'm focusing on what I want and what I desire, and I'm moving forward on that path. It's really, really interesting. So I was curious as you were talking, can you look at the programming partner as, um, like if I'm not finding acceptance, then how can I, like, where am I serious? Like what side of, the sort of seesaw am I on here? Kind of like how I even look at the not self, um, oh my gosh, and the other one, the not self and the, what is it called? What we're designed for, like our signature.
Signature,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, our signature and not self, right? So, like, as a projector, when I'm feeling bitter, how can I feel more successful in this? So, I'm looking at that kind of similarly. Is that right in terms of, yeah, like Gene Key? So, the programming partner, if I'm struggling with acceptance, how can I find, or where am I holding on to seriousness? Okay,
100%.
so Cori, where are you holding on to seriousness?
Oh, I know. I was thinking about that earlier today when I was tuning into the 46. And I was laughing at myself because, again, with my like defined ajna, I think I can get just in my head about a lot of things. Um, and yeah, think that, again, I think a lot of it is connected. It's interesting that your son is in the five. And I keep talking about this idea of time. But I think it is connected to, again, my timeline, like where my mind is like pretty serious, like this has to happen in a certain time frame. Um, that's where it comes up for me. Um, But that's why I love this and I love adventure. And like that's what takes me out of it. I think I'm a very like changeable, like I always kind of feel like movement and change are a stability for me, where like somebody else, like having more of a routine and like keeping things the same is stable and secure. For me, like moving is because then it gets me out of my head, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and
How very
that's,
Manny Gen of you.
yeah. The more I move, the more I'm on an adventure, the more I'm just leaning into like, again, enjoying what's right in front of me. Like, I love to kind of celebrate life and like, you know, enjoy the simple pleasures, um, and be outside and like kind of tune in with the rhythm and beat of whether it's the earth or like a new place. Um, that's what takes me out of seriousness and into like the delight of life. And then I'm, yeah, kind of opening to that gift um, of acceptance that actually then changes the thing that I've been trying to change in my head.
Hmm. I think for me, it's just old conditioning of, you have to work hard. I have to work hard to achieve things. And it's something honestly that I have or that I regularly come up against, like having come out of corporate and been in corporate for 15 years, like I have built my business in a slower pace and a more aligned pace and a more intentional space. And that has naturally slowed the results that I've seen too, right? And so it took me a while, in the beginning, my business was very much a roller coaster. And then I found this stability and I have stability. I have this nice foundation built now. And now I just am ready for it to scale, right? Um, and yet sometimes I get so fucking serious about life and work and who I am and what I'm doing in the journey. And I got to heal this. And why did I react that way? And why is this person doing this? And like whatever it is that I'm concerned about at the time, and so I was traveling. Cori knows this, obviously. I was traveling for 4 years and building my business nomadically. And I've landed in Buffalo, New York. I've been here for about a year now. And so right now I'm also transitioning from this like super adventure time to this like rooted, like grounded. I'm really like I've planted my seeds, all over the US. And now I'm like rooting them. And it's such a different energy. Like I have to now I'm like, where is the adventure in my business? Where am I having fun in my business? And these are things that when I get so hyper focused on like what I'm doing or where I'm going or what seeds am I planting and all the things, sometimes I forget to look at what's fun about it for me. Like even being in session with people and doing readings and connecting to super conscious energy is really fun for me because and every time I do an event people are like you must be so drained, but I'm not because of the way that I connect and it's exciting to me. It's exciting to facilitate messages for people that I have no idea what's going to come up, whether that's, past life, whether that's a soul contract, whether that's DNA, something in their DNA that comes through, like whatever it is, it's always new and exciting. And that's adventurous. And so I think that for me, it's about seeing the adventure in the little things, right? When I find a rainbow like catching on one of the walls or floor somewhere, and I get so excited to see this little rainbow dancing around. It's little things like that. When my plants I have a plant room in the back and one of them starts spurting like a new baby. I get so excited. Or when I see them growing, I get really excited. And, but I think that I have this perception of what adventure should be. And in my head, maybe that's my Sagittarius, like it's travel. When it can be just going on a walk, it can be, going out to Lake Erie or Lake Ontario and finding some cool rocks. It can be so many different things. Actually, for when I lead circles, I always go out on walks and pick elements like from the land, like local land, right? I'll snip evergreen branches or, whatever it is, pick up acorns, I'll find cool rocks and I'll make this, ritual space for us to land in and circle. And it's always really fun. And now that I'm thinking about that too, I should bring that into even my virtual ceremonies that I do. Like, why am I not doing that? Why am I not adding that adventure? Because that's part of it for me. So I think it's about opening my perspective to like life gets to be fun. Like this gets to be fun while I'm building. Just because I'm in work mode doesn't mean that I need to be serious. I get to have fun too. And I think honestly, I think that me doing like market and festival events has added that fun element to me because I'm naturally like interacting with people and that is fun. Um, but yeah, like how can I find it in the everyday? Especially working from home, because I think that that can add its own element of, like you said, the lack of movement, right? That was a lot. This is
No,
what
it's
this space
perfect.
is. It's like,
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect because it's speaking to this pair and this energy, these archetypes. They have a really deep connection with ages 0 to 7. So just like you said, it's connected to our conditioning. Like the adults around us, our caretakers, where were they serious? Do we see ourselves getting serious in those same ways, you know? Um, it's connected to what brought us joy and adventure and delight as children and leaning into that. And again, like, I just love how you were talking about getting excited about the prisms and the little seeds like seedlings popping through the soil, and like that feels very much like 0 to 7, right? And when you're that age, like you can go on an adventure anytime. Like your imagination and your ability to just see the world around you is this playground and travel. Like that's what I do try. I shouldn't say try. A reminder that I like to give myself is that life itself is this adventure, right? It's just sometimes, again, if we have in our head this certain idea of what adventure and travel looks like, and it means going to this far off place or, like being somewhere that we've never been before. But, where have we never been before in our own neighborhood? Where have we never been before in our town or even in our backyard? Like, um, I really just, yeah, feel the playfulness of the child within us, and bringing that into our everyday and into our work. Um, and really, like I've been contemplating and transforming this idea of work. A big message that was coming through, like in Aquarius season and tied to Pisces season as well, was like being paid and compensated to be ourselves, like to just be who we are and like do the things that we enjoy doing, and to kind of get out of this narrative or conditioning that, yeah, you have to be serious to like make a living. And also that, like, again, the greatest thing that we can offer the world, I'm firm on this belief in knowing, is ourselves, like our most unique, authentic, wild, weird expression, just like who we are, like open it up and let it all out. That's what the world actually wants, because it's part of something bigger, because we aren't separate. We think that we're separate. From the mind's perspective, it's hard to understand how connected we really are with everyone and everything. Um, And again, I think this is the balance of like the spirit and the body that these two archetypes really highlight. Um, the mind has a hard time grasping that, but the truth is that we're so much more than just this incarnation, this one experience. Like we expand and reach out into something bigger, but it's asking for us to really lean into this particular form and expression as part of the greater whole.
Mhm.
And I think a big part of that is playfulness.
Something something that came up as you were talking was this these iterations of who we are. So even when I think back on who I was in corporate, I remember saying to one of my coworkers one time, and I was so excited, we were like reviewing business requirements, and I was like, "Can you believe we get paid to do this?" And similarly, like you said, we get to be compensated for who we are, you know, for our gifts, for just our perspective in the world. And when I think about it, there are so many beautiful parallels like that I can look at between that iteration of Kristin and the iteration that is here now. And I wanted to say that just especially to anyone who is maybe even feeling a little lost right now in their journey of who they are. I just want to offer that sometimes it's not as different as you might think it is. And so, like, corporate Kristin was a bridge between business and technology. Like, when I like business requirements and I wrote tech requirements and things like that too. Um, and then I became a bridge between, as I went on in my career, I became a bridge between leadership and the people. And now I'm this bridge between logic and intuition, right? And so I'm serving as this bridge, this like communicator, this bridge of worlds. Actually, I recently saw a vision that I bridge worlds. You know, it's even bigger than that, but there's this thread that holds it all together that is always a part of us. And it's not actually that we've lost it or even that we're remembering because we talk a lot about like remembering who we are. And I actually want to offer that there it's always there. It's just a perspective of that part of us that we're not aligning with this future vision that we see of what's possible, right? We think we're so far behind, that we're so disconnected from that vision. But it's just an iteration of it. And so I don't know, like I feel like maybe it's about seeing that, you know, maybe it's about recognizing who we are in that moment and the things that we're doing and seeing the good in it instead of, but I want to be somewhere else. Why am I not there? That was always my question. When am I going to get there? When is this going to be over? When am I going to finish healing this? And now I joke I'll be done healing when I'm dead for this lifetime. Like, you know, I'll learn what I had to learn by then. And then even into the next lifetime it'll continue. But that's the fun of it. So I don't think that we're lost or that we're so disconnected from what we actually see possible. It's just that we haven't made the connection between where we are now with that. When we can make that connection, I feel like the path will open. But because we see them as separate, that's what keeps them disconnected or like makes the time go by slower, you know?
Yeah, I was actually just reflecting. This is bringing up quite a few things. I was just reflecting on my business, and a little journey that I've had there with an offering. I kind of connected with like its beginnings, and went through its whole sort of birth story and process. And it was wild. Like looking back, realizing that it was always actually there. Even before I had any idea that it was, like seeing that it was there, and I just had yeah, no awareness of it at the time. And I know that you've also been recently doing like a reflection on your business. So I'm sure maybe you've had something similar. And then also, during this eclipse portal, what was coming up, and I've thought about it over the last couple of years too, when I do get into this place of like, oh, but when am I going to get there? Like the thing feels like it's taking too long or whatever. And I realized like, but right now, today, I am living a life that going like 5 7 years ago I dreamed of living. Like I'm living the dream that I had before, and so now I'm here and now a new dream is there, and I'll be living that in some time, and then I'll look, and a new one will come. Like the energy that was in this portal, this eclipse portal at the beginning, really spoke to this, is like this evolutionary impulse that we have to experience the feeling of desire and those dreams, and that like going after something. It's kind of in us, and it's like I think when we get a little too caught up in it, and again the how it's all going to work out, the way that it's going to look, we forget that like it's just this journey. We keep having new ones. Like when one reaches fulfillment, we'll have a new desire and we'll move after that. Like it again, it's a very much an adventure. You get to one place, you hang out there for a while, and then you're ready to go explore something new. But it's like again too, remembering that it's the process along the way that's the real fun and the real juice and the real material. It's not like the getting there. And sometimes we even get there and we realize like, oh, that's not what I wanted actually. I've had that happen quite a few times. Like, wait, hold on. Why did I think I wanted this so much? And then I get it and it's like, oh. Um, so that's where I think really connecting with like the feeling that we're wanting to feel from that thing is so supportive, because we can access that feeling anytime. We don't need the thing to access the feeling. And I think, again, that kind of closes the gap even when we start feeling that feeling before we have the thing, or the dream or vision has been realized, is like, yeah, we can feel it now. And that, again, too, what we were speaking about earlier with like the seriousness and identity, like I think that's what it's all about, is like becoming that now instead of waiting for the thing to like be that version of yourself that's already there. Again, it's been there all along. You can look all the way back and see it. But it's easy sometimes when we get in our head. For me, it's always usually about getting to in my head, that we just kind of forget that there's a whole process along the way, and that it's always there.
Hmm. Yeah, it's that separation that we create. And that honestly can be said to so many things happening in the world right now, honestly. I just want to say that for anybody who's listening, that there's nothing for you to do. It's like, sure, listen to Cori and I contemplate these things and see what sparks in you. And we would love to hear from you and how are you experiencing these energies? Because I think that through your contemplations, it will make us contemplate deeper, and other people who respond contemplate deeper. And And I would love to see that ripple out into the world. And also that there's no wrong way. Like if you're thinking about things that are not acceptance and serious, like along those threads of acceptance and seriousness, we have all of these archetypes within us. And so how we feel them and experience them is going to be unique to all of us, right? And I'm sure Cori can speak to the actual like proper way to say that, but I feel like some of the topics that came up they may not, they might have been, like Cori was saying, related to my gate five, and um it's all it's all perfect because the way that we're designed in our makeup, the way that our energy works is our lens. It's the way that we see these things through. And that's what I think is really fun about contemplating together because, we get to see perspective that we're not so biased towards. And then I think if we can be open, again, we're not separate from that perspective, but if we can be open to hearing and seeing and contemplating maybe a little differently, I wonder how am I being serious right now if that's not something I'm thinking about right now. But I would just invite you to listen and see what sparks. But there's nothing for you to say, well, during this transit you have to XYZ. It's not like that at all. Um, in fact, I had no intentions. Cori asked me if I wanted to prepare anything for the podcast, and I said, no, I just want to be in the energy of it and feel it. Um, and I'll continue to over the contemplation over the next week. And I think that as episodes come out, as future episodes come out, all of that's going to compound on each other. And I think that's what's actually really exciting about this journey.
Yeah, that's what I absolutely love about this is there is nothing to do but just be, observe if you want to, listen to what's coming up within you and around you, and really just, I think more than anything, it's being curious and again open to having these different points of view and perspective because it allows us to then see things in different ways as well. So I absolutely love this encouragement for listeners to share with us like anything that's coming up, even if you think this has nothing to do with what they're talking about, it totally does. And it just creates a richness and a tapestry for us to weave and play with because it will bring something to each of us. I love doing this in circle um, because I've just found that I think the Gene Keys has a saying that intelligence is not individual, it's collective. And that's certainly been my experience in coming together in contemplation in circles is like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. But now that I'm hearing someone else say it, I'm like, of course, again, it's this journey of remembering or just bringing online parts of ourselves that we had. I mean, that's the shadow, right? That we had kind of tucked back in the corner or thought like, oh, that's not me, or that's not, I don't do that, or whatever, I don't experience that. But like when we hear someone else share about it in this way that kind of sparks something in us and reminds us that actually, yes, oh, I know what you're talking about. Maybe I experience it in a different way, but I can feel what you're speaking to. And I think that it's so cool. Um, and it's what we're moving into, like this mutation that is happening in our solar plexus, where the command center for our awareness is moving from the ajna to the emotional solar plexus. And it's so much about the way that we come together with others in the world around us and kind of like, yeah, move in this very synarchic way. I might have made that word up, but
I'm here for making up words.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that it's in that resonance that you speak to that really illuminates how similar and how tied together we are. And also evidence to show that it was always a part of you. You're just bringing life back to it. So, anything else that's on your heart with this to feel complete today?
I feel like we really touched on everything that we were meant to. I feel really complete. And again, it's just an adventure. And like you said, um, we'll be able to sit with this and continue to observe and watch these energies move in us and around us over the next week. And we'll see, like, we're already starting to talk about some of the energies that we'll be covering in the week to come. So it's cool to see how they, again, they weave together. And yes, we can use these words and this language to kind of like put them in little compartments and look at this part of the energy and look at this part of the energy. But at the end of the day, again, nothing is separate. It's all connected. And and I think we'll see that as this journey continues.
Hmm. Yeah, and notice how sensitive you are. Like that would be my invitation. As you're listening to us speak, and even like Cori said, like we're already speaking to some of the coming energies. Like that's just evidence that we're sensitive to the energy that's moving right now, and we can feel that. It's through those senses that our intuition really comes to life. And I think some people are so in their heads about it, they don't know that that's what that is, that their sensitivities are alluding to that. And so I just notice how sensitive you are without even being in your head about it.
Oh, and when you were sharing, actually, one thing that came through is I would love if people shared like something from their inner child or something they're doing to bring more play and like to move out of um the mind's grasp of things, like yeah, just the ways that you're leaning into delight, or just something that you remember from when you were younger that really just brought you so much joy and that maybe you're trying it now. Like I think that's something I'm going to lean into this week, is when I do feel the tightness in my body or the sort of worry or anxiety come in, is just like yeah, going to find a rainbow or a little prism on the wall, or yeah, just doing something that really brings that younger version of me a lot of joy.
Mm. I love this. I love this. We can all use more joy in our lives. At least I can. I won't speak for everyone, but I can certainly stop being so serious about things. All right. Well, if you loved this episode of this conversation, we would love for you to share it with someone and stay tuned in the coming weeks because we will be posting on a about weekly basis for the next energy and just reflecting and continuing these conversations and contemplations and inner rituals, just inner attunement to what we're feeling. So we hope that you will join us in our wild contemplations.